Hello everyone, welcome to today's session where we are going to begin our discussion over the topic writing short story or fiction. Before we dive deep into the tips and tricks of creating a great short story, I would like to have a brief discussion over the importance or significance of writing a short story when you are in the beginning of your writing career or when you are on the way of your author's journey. So I must say writing a short story is a perfect place to start with, because when you start to write a short story you come across with all those obstacles, hindrances, troubles, or I must say dilemmas, doubts, which you come across or which you find when you write a book length tale in the form of novel. Because you will find that if things are so complex or intricate when you write a short story, then how much profound they will be when you write a novel or a really big fiction. Because short story come in varying shapes and sizes, like traditional, flash fiction, micro fiction. So it will be a good exercise. It is a good exercise to understand, to get the hang of the things in terms of creativity. Because when you practice the writing short fiction, you gain the momentum as a writer. And here I'm not implying that writing a short story is easier than writing a novel. No, I just want to convey that when you write, when you work in smaller bites, then things become more manageable. So that is why short story is a good way to go in your author's journey. So let's discuss now with the question, or let's start the discussion with the question, how to come up with great short story. So when you decide that you are going to write creative fiction in terms of short story, flash fiction, microfiction, or even a novel, then the first thing you struggle with as an author, as an aspiring author, you struggle with the idea. It can be in dual form, it can be in two ways. The struggle can be, your challenge can be in two ways. Sometimes you find yourself bereft of any idea. You will find that I don't have any idea to write a good short story, and sometimes you have a long list of ideas and you don't know where to start with. So here I would suggest that you should write what inspires you the most, what drives you, what is your passion, what inspires you. Because on the way, if in the middle you face, in case you face any writer's block, in that case it will be your passion that will drive you. So it is very important to zero in, it is very important to figure out that what is your passion, or what idea you should opt, which about which you are passionate. So that thing you have to recognize. The ideas are all around you, you just have to recognize them, pick them out, or the things, or the memory, take out the things, or think upon the things from your memory, the person, any conflict, tension, or any problem which drives you the most. So that will work as a germ of the idea, and that germ will develop in your story. So you can figure out, you can narrow down your ideas in this way. So first thing is opting a right idea for your story. And the next thing, now you have decided why are you writing a story, what are you going to share with the world. Now the next thing, or the next challenge, is that how can you convey this, how effectively you can convey your idea so that readers really want to read your work. For that, what is the one of the best suggestions I can give you is, you should read as many great short stories you can. Read hundreds of them, especially the classics, because when you read them, you understand, you get yourself acquainted with the best. And in this process, when you are performing, or when you are playing the role of an apprentice or trainee, you are evaluating, you are analyzing, you are watching the style and structure of the best of the writers, and in the process you start emulating it. But this is not a final phase, because you are still in the phase when you are emulating the ideals or the classics. You has not developed your own style yet, but you will find that when you are reading dozens of classics or write-ups which are really good creations, then you will find that in the process, at certain phase you start emulating, and in the process you will find your own style. You start developing your own style and you start writing in it. So this is a gradual and very creative process which you should plunge in and see the difference, see the change in your creativity or your writing skills. So there are some of the masters or of a short story, or the writers you can go through with, and others, there can be many more. These are some of the writers which I can suggest you can read. Next is aim for the heart. Now with this suggestion, what I want to convey is that if you have noticed that most of the great write-ups or novels or short story writers deeply move emotionally, have deep emotions, they deeply move the readers emotionally. So you should also keep in mind while designing your plot or while crafting your stories, you should keep in mind that there should be a very well designed and well formed aim for the heart. And this you can do by incorporating these elements like love, redemption, justice, freedom. They are very powerful, heroic sacrifice, and what else, there can be many more you can add. The next is narrow your scope. Now it goes without saying that when you are writing a fiction, here we are talking specifically about short stories, so I'm just here want to distinguishing here, I'm distinguishing between the short story and fiction. So when you're writing a short story, try to narrow your scope, because there's a drastic change between a fiction writing and short story writing. Because when you write a fiction, it consists of 400 to 450 pages with 80,000 to 1 lakh words, and whereas in short story there are just 10 or 12 pages which ranges from 4,000 to 5,000 words. So it obviously restricts number of characters, scenes, and even plot points. Whereas in novel you can experiment with an extensive cast of characters with many plots, subplots, themes, sub-themes. So your time period can be from, you can take decades of them, generations of you can tell the stories of generations with the help of fiction. But when you write a short story, it is not a journey. Novel is a journey of character which transforms him, whereas short story is just a short slice from character's life. It is just an incident, an event, any emotional loop which changes characters. So this is just a slice of character's life, that narrows your scope. And in the limited number of pages and words, you have to be very specific, where you have to write a compelling story with a proper beginning, middle, and end. So that is why it is very necessary to be specific, narrowing your scope, condense your timeline, etc. And some of the tightening tips I would like to share with you here, that for instance, there are certain description which tells that how one character moves from one place to another place. Now these descriptions, readers have no interest in such descriptions, that how one characters get from one place to another place. You can tell it simply, so eliminate those things, and rather than, you can tell it simply. For instance, in this statement, late that afternoon Jack met Terence at a coffee shop. Jack met Terence at a coffee shop, just that. How he reaches there, it doesn't matter, it is not that important. But if it is a part of your plot line, the journey, the traveling, if it is an integral part of your storyline, then do describe it. Otherwise, if it is just filling of the pages for the sake of filling the pages, don't do it, because it will lose the interest of the readers and they will keep your story aside. And the next thing, you can also eliminate those descriptions which tells the surroundings. For instance, if you want to describe a winter morning, so instead of describing the whole scenery, you can just tell that suppose there is a character who is a girl, and you can just tell covering her face with a scarf against the frigid wind. Now it itself is telling that there is a winter in surrounding. The weather is wintry. So these are some of the tightening tips. You can explore more and implement them while writing a short story. Next tip is classic story structure. Now you it is a very good suggestion actually, and being a beginner we should accept it, and many experts also admit that this is really a very unfailing technique. But being an experimental, if you are so much experimenting, you can experiment it in the later phase of your author journey. But in the beginning it is a very safe play. Where what is this classic story structure? This is very basic approach but crucial. What it says, that plunge your character into terrible trouble from the get-go. That from the very beginning you should plunge your character, you should create trouble, or you should create such an atmosphere where your character is in trouble from the very beginning. So instead of describing some introduction, instead of describing some setting, etc., from the very starting, if you give this hook to the readers, then there are very much chances that they will continue with your story. So this is a very important and powerful technique. Now with different genres, this terrible trouble can be different. Now if you're writing a thriller, suppose you are writing a thriller, then what could be the terrible trouble? It can be in the form of physical danger where your character is in life or death. If the theme is love, then, or the genre is love, then your character, hero or heroine, might find herself or himself in the position, or he or she is torn between suitors, more than one suitors. It can be a terrible trouble. And if the genre is mystery, then your character might, or your character or lead character might witness any murder, and later he himself is accused of the same murder. So in this way you can set your character in terrible trouble in order to create a tension, intrigue, problem, and which quest, challenge, danger, so that it becomes interesting for the reader. So this is what classic story structures, which I reiterate, that plunge your character into terrible trouble from the get-go. The next is become a ferocious self-editor. Now once you have completed your first draft, which is a rough draft where you have vomited the first version of your creativity, now the next and very crucial step is to become a ferocious self-editor. And here why I am saying that you should edit aggressively, because it is a very important to present your write-up in the best way possible to the readers. It is it can be this self-editing phase can be a rewriting also, because at some places you can find that I need to add something, I need to rewrite it. It can be, or it can be like kill your darlings. That means there can be some character you find so much attached with, but you need to eliminate it because it is not in the, now it is not in the sync of your story. So it may happen, but you should be detached and become a very aggressive self-editor, because your aim is to make your write-up as clear and crisp as possible, and you have to do it till you are not happy with every word of your write-up. So in the first round you can check these things like flow of the story, and you can in the first round you can read the whole story, where you can check the bigger picture like flow of the story, or the tone which you have thought, is it maintained throughout the story. You can check the readability of the story, orality of the story can be checked by reading it aloud, and then in the next second or third phases you can read the text which you have written page by page, chapter by chapter, and paragraph by paragraph, and even line by line. And after confirming all these things, you can also make it sure that you have examined your write-up for the sake of perfection, and you have examined these elements also, like spelling, grammar, punctuation, sentence construction, word choice, elimination of cliches, redundancies. Now redundancy means here what I want to say, that sometimes we are in the habit of using certain words again and again and without our knowledge, because we are more in the flow of the creative output. So in the editing portion, here comes our significant role to eliminate all those repeated words which we have used and replace them with more strong active verbs and good synonyms. So this is what we can do in this editing portion. And one more thing we can check, or we can observe in our text or in our write-up, is that we should also make it sure that our write-up which we have written to, there are certain lines which we have in which we have given some sensory details, in which we want the readers to feel something sensory with their senses. Like if you want to make the readers smell something, if you want to make the readers hear something, the sound, and if you want to make the readers visualize something, is it working? Are your sensory details are capable enough to engage the readers with their whole senses? Are they able to do the same things? Are the impact you want to create in the readers, is it done? So these all things which you should keep in mind while editing, where that your readers are engaged properly with their senses and emotions well. And the next here I have given some of the examples by which you can eliminate, you can remove the repetition and the redundancy of your write-up. Like for example, if there is a line you have written, she shrugged her shoulders, instead of it you can write she shrugged. And these are just some examples, and you can find it more where you can omit some needless words and add more power and charm to your sentences. Like if he blinked his eyes, you can write he blinked. Jim walked in through the open door and sat down in a chair. Now instead of it you can just write Jim walked in and sat. Now here I want to give you an alert that in case there is in your storyline the chair, this object chair plays an important part in your storyline, then there is no need to remove it, because it is a trope of your story. But if you find that it is just one of the objects which incorporate your surrounding, which is a part of your surrounding, then you can do it, you should do it, to give more power, charm to your write-up. And the next, the crowd clapped their hands and stomped their feet. Instead of it you can say the crowd clapped and stomped. So with this we come to the end of this session, and in the next session we will discuss some of the very major important key elements of writing a short story. And I look forward to see you in the next session. Thank you for your attention.